Don't wait till you have it all figured out and you have this perfect plan to take any action. And that's something on the investing side, I say all the time. I promise
Mm,
you, there's never going to come a day where you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm rich enough now. I have all this extra money. I'm going to start investing and start giving it away and start saving. You have to build those habits in from the very beginning. If you're making
mm,
$20,000 a year, give $20 away to a charity you care
yeah.
about, invest $100 and save 500. I don't care the amounts. It's about the habits and the patterns. Because as your income grows, as your business grows, those habits will grow too. But like if you don't build those foundations in, I think like I said, never. If you'll just make more and spend more.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Medeiros.
And I'm Colleen Hungerford, and this is We're Doing This Right, right? Podcast for the whole woman, mind, body, soul, and business.
It's humor infused, as real as it gets, inspiring, and you'll walk away with real usable tools for life and business.
If you love what you're hearing, please share with a friend, subscribe so you'll never miss an episode, and rate and review whenever you listen.
So find your earbuds, lace up your walking shoes, or cozy up with a beverage of your choice. It's time to dig in.
hello, doing it writers.
What should we name our
Our
people
pod
need
squad,
a name.
our
Pod squad or
well, pod squad is what the Glennon Doyle's people are called, and then Jack Shepard's people
steal
are
that.
the armcherries, so we can't be any of those things. But I am an
Okay,
armcherry,
think
and I
of-
using to be a pod squatter, although I've fallen off the wagon there. I'm now just reading fairy and dragon porn instead of listening to Glennon Doyle. So
Yeah, we'll figure out a name for our people or listeners.
let us know. Comment. We'll do a little adventure game. You guys tell us what you want to be called. Are doing it
Yeah, choose
writers
your own
for
adventure.
today.
What's
I feel
happening?
like we're doing it super right today because we have Allie and Raleigh's high school bestie here, and I don't think there's anything much more exciting than that.
What the hell? How did I not even know that,
Not
Sarah?
sure. Where have you been? Are you reading emails?
My clearly not.
Not to call you
And
out.
Sarah and I already have our own friendship right now. We're already besties. We've met several times now. Oh my God. Yay.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Yep.
Go on.
Okay.
Go
well,
on.
here with us today is Sara Freer. Did I say Freer right?
You
Well
did.
done. Go me. I'm doing it right. See, look at us go. Sarah works full-time in the finance and trading space for small women-owned firm that excels in active management and personal service. She also has a strong background in development and entrepreneurship and advocates for women artisans around the world through Noonday Collection. She and her film director husband are raising a powerful squad of 4 daughters just outside Chicago,
Yes.
finding joy in the chaos. Well done. That's
There
a
we
nice
go.
little bio. I'm here for it.
Oh my God. So exciting. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Okay, but take us back
So-
to conception. Tell us everything about your life.
Yeah, tell us everything from when you were born until now.
No, I want
No,
to start
but-
at conception, Colleen, please.
Oh,
Let's go
okay.
backward.
Wow,
And tell
okay.
Charles Barkley hello.
Tell Charles, shut up. My dog is the worst.
All
Okay,
right.
Sarah,
Well,
tell us
yeah.
everything about you. Like
Okay.
we know that you're best friends with Allie. We know now that you're a mom of 4 amazing girls.
Yep.
And tell us about everything else because there's so much more.
I'm Sara Freer. I grew up near Chicago, in a suburb of Chicago, and most of still very close with my childhood high school friends. 6 of us were in Jamaica earlier
Oh.
this year after Christmas, including Allie.
Okay, I know all about
yeah.
this trip. OMG.
Yes.
Okay, wait. Where in Chicago? What suburb?
So we grew up in Glen Ellen, which is
Okay.
about 30 minutes west of Chicago, but I've lived in Oak
Okay.
Park since 2007.
Okay.
Oak Park is like the first suburb right outside the city. So that's where
Yeah,
my husband and I have landed. And as the bio said, I work in finance and trading for a woman-owned firm. I've been there. It'll be 19 years in August. So I've really
Oh my God.
built
Wow.
built my career there. It's a small family office, so we do everything from like financial planning, but then we're also doing the actual buying and selling of the stocks, the trading,
Okay.
everything having to do with investments. And it's been a great business. I love being at a small firm because I really get to know our clients. And it's all built on trust and personal relationship. It's about that chemistry, and we we tell our clients, like, we worry about your money so you don't have to. Everyone has so much going on, and it just works better. Like, you do what you do best. Like, selling houses, your real estate
Right.
business, you do
Right.
that, and let us worry about like the nuts and bolts of your money.
Amazing.
And I think there's something about just being a team of women and we do have men on staff. Like, it's in the whole
How
premise
dare
of
you?
women.
How
Yeah,
dare
right.
you?
I know. But I think being a women-led team in a space like finance that's so traditionally male and
Hell yeah.
conservative, is just really refreshing. And I find, that we have a lot of clients who are entrepreneurs, who are women, who just want to be listened to. And a lot of times the traditional finance companies don't do a good job of that. They'll put you just kind of in a model. They'll just ignore you or check in every so often. But we really kind of start with that relationship. And I think that's been a big strength of what we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have 2 questions to start,
Yeah.
or 2 things. One, will you explain to our listeners, because I just learned about this term family office not too long ago. So explain to us what a family office is, because I think this is really interesting.
Yes, there's a couple things in finance. There's the side of finance that's called like institutional management, which is like the big investment banks, the Goldman Sachs, or the firms that are managing money for other institutions. So it could be pension funds, it could be corporations, it could be anything like that. That is not what we do. So we're on the personal wealth side. So our clients are individuals and families. The term family office originally came from, say you have a very wealthy family, like the Rockefellers, or someone who has their own wealth of hundreds of millions of dollars. They would have their own family office, basically people who are paid just to manage the money of that particular family, as opposed to like an institution. Now, sometimes we'll still see the term family office use what I do, which is we're managing money for individuals and for families. I don't manage money just for one family. I have probably 100 families that we're working with. So the distinction really is like who your clients are. Are your clients people? I manage John Smith IRA or like Katie's Trust. And it's like the client's name is on the account. It's not a hedge fund where everything's like pooled together versus institutional. So that's the difference there.
Oh, I love that. I was something that I had like learned recently as I continue to learn more about finance. And I just was like, that isn't something that I had heard before. And in my mind, it like feels a bit mafia. Like it feels a little bit like,
like the family. Yeah.
Like the family, like whatever. And then the other question I had for you is, your office is based out of Chicago, I'm assuming. Yes. Now,
Yes,
can you serve everybody?
Yes.
Nationwide?
So our firm started in Boston, actually, in the late 70s. Okay. Started in Boston. And then our current owner, she started in 1990, became a partner. And then in 2005, when the founder was retiring, she bought him out. And so she became the 100% owner. She's a Midwest girl. She's from Wisconsin. So when she bought the firm, she moved the headquarters to Chicago. By that point, they had clients all over. So it also made sense to be in the middle of the country. It's just easier to get around and all of that. And so when she bought the firm, moved the headquarters to Chicago, then that's when I started. So I started in 2006, right after she had bought the firm. I was from the Chicago area. And so we have clients all over. We even have some international clients, but they have to have like a U.S. tax ID, like a trust or, something like that. So it's mostly here. But yes, we manage. It doesn't have to be in Chicago. We travel. We sit down with our clients. Since COVID, now a lot of people prefer Zoom meetings or phone calls, really whatever people want. Like some people I love the face-to-face connection. And I think a lot of times we meet around people's kitchen tables or at a restaurant or wherever they're comfortable talking about money. But we also do a lot of work via email, Zoom, phone, all of that.
Love that. I love, and I only ask that because we have listeners all over the country. And like, if there's an opportunity for them to work with you or to work with like a female owned group, like that is kick-ass. Yeah. So I just wanted everybody to know about that.
Well, and let me give Allie's disclaimer on Sarah when she was introducing us to her. She's like, I just gave her all of my money to manage. I handed every penny we have over. Which is a amazing review.
I'm not allowed to discuss my clients' information, but they can certainly give testimonials to me. So that's wonderful. I'll take it.
Well, and I think that's really important. There's an interesting evolution, I think, especially when you're an entrepreneur and or a business owner or even an executive. Like once you start to your income or your business starts to go to a different level, like you need to know what to do. Like my girlfriend the other day was like, homegirl, you need a financial advisor. And I'm like, okay, but like I have my little like investment accounts that I like put money in and I have an accountant or whatever. And she's like, no, that is not it.
Well, I think there's a couple things with that. Like the first is, as I was talking about before, is just the power of specialization and like knowing that you will do best when you focus on the things that you are best at and that bring you joy. And managing money and really paying attention to the stock market and earnings of different companies and interest rates and the economy and what's going on is a full-time job, and it is our full-time job. And so I think it's like instead of kind of doing it haphazardly or feeling like, oh, I should look at my accounts or I shouldn't, but I have all this other stuff to do. It's like you run your race and basically like you make your money and then know when to hire people. That being said, I think it's also a business. It's super important to like trust and have that good dynamic because you also need to pay attention. Like even when you're outsourcing, you need to know where your money is. You need to know how to access it. You need to know like who you're paying and for what. And so, and have that like high level control. But I think, yeah, it absolutely is like you do your thing. I mean, I can't do most of what my clients do. I'm not a heart surgeon. I'm not a realtor. I'm not, working in all these things. So it's like, you do that, we'll do this. And this is all we do. We don't sell products. We're not accountants. We don't sell life insurance. We don't get kickbacks for certain funds. Like our only incentive is to like make your money grow, which also includes protecting it on the downside, paying attention to it. Right. So I think it's all of those things. And I'm also always happy to talk to people. And I'll be really honest, like if someone doesn't seem like a great fit for us or for what we offer, I'll try and find them, someone who is. Because I think there is a place, like you're absolutely right. For a lot of people who are starting out, there's nothing wrong with like having some accounts at Vanguard, putting them in an index fund and just doing your thing. But I think there is a point where either you as a business owner needs a little more strategy. You need someone who will work with your accountant, who will optimize like retirement vehicles and figure out kind of all those pieces, or you just would benefit from a little more active like trading and someone to pay attention to that. So there's a time for an advisor, and I'm always like, I'm happy to just help people like review their budget or say like, you know what, like you're probably fine with just this setup and all that. So I think, yeah.
That's awesome. Sorry, Cheryl, to jump in on you. Go ahead. I have so many questions for Sarah. You go.
So you talked about when like paying attention, especially when we're down. And I imagine we're kind of having that conversation right now as things have taken a turn. So don't give me individual advice, but like what is kind of the tone coming out of your office right now as we are in this little bit of a downturn here?
That's a great question. And if you have a relationship with, an advisor or a basic strategy that you're comfortable with, I do not like my clients to look at their accounts every day. It's not helpful. It's not productive. It just sends people into a panic, first of all. Like if you have things set up properly, like you shouldn't be like obsessing every day, especially in like long-term accounts. That being said, right now we're in an interesting environment because the headlines and the news is just so rapid and panic inducing. And so I think, people will read these headlines and they will truly think they've lost half their money. Right now, the markets are back to the levels we were at just last September of 2024. So it's about 6 months, but we also had a double-digit year in 2024. We had a double-digit year in 2023. So it's not as bad as the headlines might make it seem. You read like market down 600 points, but like today the market's up a couple hundred points, right? So I think some of it is just the perspective taking. And right now, a lot of what we're doing is emotional handholding with our clients, honestly, just reminding them that we've got this, we are paying attention. Now, that being said, things came up so quickly at the end of the year and after the inauguration, like we are holding quite a bit of cash. There are some stocks, especially in tech, that came up so quickly and we're like, we're good. We're going to take some profits. We're going to hold some cash and see what happens, because there are buying opportunities in this volatility too. So we're not just sitting and watching. We are actively taking advantage of the volatility for our clients' benefits. We're holding cash, we're protecting on the downside, but we're not panicking. We've also been doing this a long time and have seen bad markets. So I guess I'm trying to say it's not always as bad as the headlines would make you think, but you do want to make sure that like you're well diversified, you have a plan in place, you know, you have cash, but also when things are down, it's also a good time to buy. I mean, there's
Warren Buffett,
Yeah.
you know, let's be bullish when people are, what is the saying? Like basically take opportunities when people are scared. And then when people are
Exactly.
feeling greedy or like ambitious, then be cautious. I don't know. He
And we
used a
have
lot more eloquent language than I
we
did,
yeah, we have certain clients who we call negative indicators because whenever they want to like sell and get out, it's like that's the time to buy. And so I think it's just, you know, keeping the perspective and also like taking opportunities.
It sounds a lot like the real estate market in that respect, where like the media is like, it's the worst, everything's terrible, nobody buy anything, blah, blah.
and I'm
you're
having
like,
the best
actually,
year
like,
ever.
yeah, you're like,
Yeah.
actually chill out. Like everything's fine. Like it's not that bad. Like, what are you guys doing? You know,
Right.
like
Yeah.
it's so interesting how, you know, obviously our industries are different, but have, you know, parallels, but like how important it is, to your point, to have like a professional who specializes in this, because if you are just reading the newspaper, if anybody still does that, or watch the news or whatever, like it can be scary, and you can start to freak and like panic and just be like, guess I need to sell all my stock, you know, or
And
whatever.
And the problem with that too is not, you know, when people want to sell or move into cash, the problem isn't that, and they might save a little bit on the downside. The problem is they never get back in time. Like we
Right.
had someone who was not a client who sold everything when Joe Biden was elected because he just thought this is like terrible, you know.
Oh my
And
God.
it was like, okay, you protected a little bit, but then we went on to have these double digit years of growth. And guess what? He was still on the sidelines sitting in cash. So it's like you
Oh
have
my
to be
God.
able to ride some of those ups and downs to get the growth and the recovery. And I mean, that's the same even going back to 2008. Like we had a lot of cash going in. And so our accounts were down, but not nearly as down as the markets. But that also let us have a much easier recovery, right? And if you had panicked and sold, you would just be flat. And so I think it's like not, and also that's what there's so much emotion with money. Like so much is
Yes.
wrapped into money. It's our earnings, it's
Yeah.
everything. And so people are not able to make clinical decisions about their money. And that's also where we come in. It's like we
Yeah.
can look at the charts and look at the history and look at the earnings without the emotion wrapped up into it, right? Because I think that that's just normal. Like if you're watching it so much, you're like, I've worked so hard for this, but it's like this is also why you need a third party sometimes to just be able to ride those waves for you.
Yeah, you're like, okay, chill out. We're fine. Everything's
Yeah.
cool. Don't panic. I feel like that's stuff, you know, in Cheryl and I's industry that we do all the time, right? Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of this emotional, because in the same respect, it's a big asset, right? And it's emotional, and you know, it has all these feelings to it. But, you know, ultimately people don't sell their house every day, or people don't read, you know, follow the market every day. So it's like you do need these people. Can you talk to us about, like, we hear a lot, and maybe if you can't, we'll just edit this out. But like, do you have any prediction? I hear a lot of people being like, oh, these are all the predictors that happened right before 2008. Like, is that a conversation that's happening in the market right now? Like, should we be freaking out, or are we good? And if you don't know, that's okay too.
I think there are certainly a lot of things to be concerned about right now. I don't want to downplay or minimize, you know, valid concerns, whether it's about the
Yeah.
administration or like what's going on. But I don't feel like these are, in terms of the market and economic conditions, these aren't like unprecedented times. Like we've seen, you know, the markets can't go up all the time. There's always kind of a
Right.
natural pattern of cycles, and a lot of things are still going, like earnings have still been really strong. There's a lot of economic indicators that are still strong. Now, the administration is definitely a wild card in that it's hard to know how much
Are
of the
they?
talk is
They're not
talk
pretty.
and, and how much will happen. And the market does not like uncertainty, you know. And so
Yes.
that's hard because
Okay.
that's tricky. I don't think it's time to panic. I do think if you're trying to do this yourself and feeling over your head, it might be time to talk to an advisor or someone just to look at
Yeah.
everything you have and like have some kind of plan for downside protection, whether that's moving into a little more cash. I do not recommend selling everything and just sitting in cash, but sometimes there are profits, you can kind of take or shift assets a little bit. I think that, like, for example, the tariffs, I mean, there will be economic impact, certainly, to
Right.
some of these policies, and it will be painful. But I don't think that means, okay, sell everything and just take a 4-year break from the market. I think there's still a lot of companies making money. There's still investments to be made. There's still a lot of really good reasons to be an aware investor. And in
Yeah.
2008, there's signs, right, in certain industries we can look at. We can look at like tech valuations and how quickly things came up, and where there's certain sector
Right.
rotations, I think, that we're paying attention to. We don't have a lot of energy stocks right now, like certain things like that. And I think, we were
Okay.
out of the big banks really early in 2008 because you could see looking at, financials for certain industries that like trouble was coming. But I do not feel in a broad like market base that like we are headed for disaster. Everybody just get out.
Yeah.
Panic.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
Sarah, I just realized. So you started in 2006. Like, holy cannoli,
Yeah.
like
What a way,
baptism by
right?
fire, right?
I
Like, oh
know.
my God.
Exactly.
But that is like, I mean, what an experience, but also what an experience for you to be able to kind of give that knowledge base and that experience to your clients, right? Like, yo, like, listen,
Absolutely.
I've seen this and here we are now, and here's how these different things compare. That's incredible. I'm seeing clients, I work a little bit in the alternative investment space. So I'm seeing some of my clients that I have mutual clients with another wealth management company here where they're moving out of stock, but again, they're moving into like development in real estate investments. Like we're seeing that a little bit
Yeah.
here, just almost like as a, I don't want to say like a protection, but just as an alternative, right? They're
Yes.
pulling a little bit out to kind of support themselves in a different way. So that's been an interesting observation over here.
Okay, so you are not only in the finance world. Can you talk to us about your Noonday
Oh,
Collection?
Oh my God, sorry.
Yes, I would love
Yes,
to.
tell us all about it.
I would love to. So I, before I had my girls, so I have 4 daughters. They're 10, 8, 5, and 1. And before I had my daughter, I was really involved with an organization called Opportunity International that focuses on microfinance and in the developing world. So they basically fund small business loans to women entrepreneurs to start and run small businesses. And what they've found and what I learned through that work is that entrepreneurship is a really powerful driver of economic stability. It's not charity, it's, empowering. Sometimes people just need a little bit to start, right? A little bit of capital to start. They have the idea, they have the brain power. And so by doing that, it's changes whole communities, and their payback rates were really high. It was just like a really interesting way, and I loved being able to use business and finance in a more global setting and to help women make their communities stronger, send their girls to school, like all this good stuff. And so I ran the junior board here in Chicago for that organization for a long time, was able to travel to Tanzania with my husband and like really
Oh
loved
my
doing
God.
that. But then I went to business school, I got my MBA, I had my daughter, and so like kind of fell to the wayside. But in 2017, I was listening to a podcast and they were interviewing the founder of this company called Noonday Collection, who's Jessica Honegger, who's now a good friend of mine. And she was talking about her company, Noonday Collection. It's a fair trade company, a B Corp, and what they do is they offer a marketplace for handmade jewelry, accessories made by women artisans and entrepreneurs around the world. And so as soon as I heard her talking about that story, I was just like so in. I was just like, these are the women that I am so passionate about, that I want to help, that I want to use business to do. And so I signed up right then and there to like be a brand ambassador and to work with them. I had never seen the jewelry. I really had no intention of selling anything. And it's just been wonderful. So it's been almost 8 years. I've gotten to travel
my
to
God.
Guatemala and to Peru. I'm going to Thailand in June just to spend time with these women and just to show them like, you're not alone. Like, we care about you. We care about entrepreneurship. We support your business. And especially in this world of just where like fast fashion is like all the rage. And I mean, the garment industry, the clothing industry is horrible globally. Like
Horrible.
the treatment of workers, the working conditions, the pay, everything. And so being a fair trade company and a member of the Fair Trade Federation, we really prioritize doing business the right way. And when you're working in the developing world, there's a lot of ways to cause harm to a community. People will come in with good intentions and it doesn't work. So we're really focused on scale and, starting small, focusing on long-term partnerships so that we can encourage these entrepreneurs and their community. So basically, I tell their stories, I sell the jewelry, and just support these women.
That's incredible.
Amazing. It's so cool that you're going and like getting to meet, like see the communities and be in the communities. And I had somebody say something to me the other day, a really wonderful woman who's a friend of mine, and she said, and she's been helping me in my business quite a bit. And she's like, I don't give handouts, but I'll give a hand up every single day.
Yes, I love that.
And that was like, that sounds like, what the mission of what you guys are doing is like. I'm not going to just, like there's a difference between just handing somebody something, but helping them build something is so impactful.
I think that's a really powerful.
Sorry, what came to mind when you were describing the work you're doing there is like that adage about if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, but if you teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And that's really what, like you said, it's not charity. It's an opportunity.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that there's certainly a place for charity in times when that really is the best way, but this is just something different. And it's, one quick story, when I was in Guatemala, we were in the home of one of the women we were working with, and she also had 4 daughters, although I only had 2 at the time, but they were older, and she was telling me one wanted to be a nurse and one wanted to be a teacher. And they were all going to school, but they never had enough money to send them all together. So one would go, come home and work with the mom. The other would go. So they were getting an education, but it was taking 4 times as long. But she was telling us that because of the orders and the work with Noonday Collection, for the first time, she was going to be able to send them all to school. And the pride on her face that she had done that with her hard work, in that we were valuing her contributions, that's something you can't take away. I mean, my first instinct was like, how much is this school? Can I write a check? It's probably $50. It's probably like how much I spend at like brunch with my girlfriends. So you want to just throw money at it. But that would have been taking away from her empowerment and her pride in the fact that like she is building something sustainable for her girls. And it was so powerful. And so I think about that a lot. Like, where can I, support that as opposed to just trying to like slap a Band-Aid on it. And I also think it's good for my girls to see me spending time and energy and attention on things that are outside of our little, day-to-day world for other people. We've had women from Uganda stay in our home, and they're getting to see this work alongside of me.
Okay, I have a question about how you get involved in that. Sorry, Colleen. We're just doing this today.
We're on the same. We love it. I love you.
How do you get involved with Noonday Collection? Like, how could we support your organization and support these women all around the world?
So the easiest way is just to shop. I have a website. You can like look at the pieces and shop.
Done.
Yeah, right?
We can do that.
Everything is handmade. Everything will come with a little card that tells you like where it's from. Like the earrings I'm wearing, these are crocheted in India. They're like a navy blue. That's the easiest. I also will do like gatherings. I mean, we're all across the country, but like I love doing it's old school. It's like a Tupperware party, but I love doing in-home parties because then I get to tell these stories and I get to show you pictures of like, here's me in Thailand. And because I can say like, oh, this is handmade, but this is really different. Like it's really business being done the right way. It's not like an MLM. It's not like a scam. I have an MBA from the University of Chicago. I've been to these places. Like I know like business when it's being done well and when it's not. And so I just really respect the company and the way we go about things. It's a big deal to be a part of the Fair Trade Federation and to commit to doing the right way. Especially right now, what we're seeing is like there really is just like a race to the bottom. People are buying this crap from like China that's like made in factories that are like burning, like blowing up and lighting on fire, and like the working conditions, child labor, like I could go on and on. And the amount of waste, like the average garment in the US gets touched 7 times before it goes to the landfill. Like it's
Oh my
just
God.
crazy. And so I think, yeah, shopping, also just being slowly more aware of our patterns and where we spend our money and who we're supporting. And like, if you have a choice for a gift or something, it's like, I mean, I still shop at Amazon. I still shop at Target. I'm trying to do that less. But when I can, I'd rather feel good about my dollars and where they're going
Yeah.
and knowing they're helping, women. So I think that's it. Also, just like spreading the word, right? Sharing the stories and that kind of thing.
You probably know this percentage, but women in the US are the consumer, like, right? For families, like we're driving consumption in the country. So if we all make an intentional shift to minimizing impact on the environment, supporting women-owned
Yes.
businesses that are treating employees fairly and running a strong business, we are going to make a change. I know my circle, I'm starting to see like a lot more intention around the way that people are spending their dollars, and truly like vote with your dollars.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, nobody is like harder on the boycott of Target and Amazon than my
Right?
husband. And I am like, he is like riding this hard, even to the point where I was like, okay, I am with you. We're solid in this, but I have a gift card. So how do we feel about that?
That money's already
Right.
spent. Go for it.
That's what we came to. I was like, can I do, I just need this by tomorrow. Can I, whatever. But it's been very interesting. And we've talked about this a lot, but it becomes a habit, right? Like you just order it up, or what's easy is a habit, and it's not intentional. It's just what it is. But, since deciding where we want to spend our money, and going and getting our Costco membership and all of those things, it hasn't made our life any harder, right? Like
Right.
we were doing something that was just very easy, but now that we've been a little bit more intentional with how we're spending our money, it's not any harder, right? And so I think to your point, Sarah, like being intentional of like buying gifts for people or yourself or whatever, like this isn't a hard thing. I'm sure you have a website. I'm sure it's the same thing. We just go to a different website and order from you
Right.
instead of somebody from Amazon, right? And I just wanted to touch back on you talked about this being more sustainable for these women. And it really, like when you said that to me, often we think about sustainable as far as like better for the environment, but this is also sustainable, like, which is also better for the environment. Like if you were to pay for her school for 1 year, like, then what, right? Then what happens next year, right? And this is creating these beautiful systems and setting these women up for success so that they can sustain this on and on and on and on. And I just like, that is so powerful. Like that is pretty incredible, and also better for the environment, I'm sure, in those respects. And
Right.
like, if you've seen those pictures, I have this, like when you were talking about like the sweatshops in China, there was this one picture I saw. And listen, my parents owned a factory when I was little, so like I have a taste of what child labor is because I was that child doing the labor. But like of the little kid under the sewing machine in the factory. Have you seen those pictures? I'm sure, Sarah, have you seen pictures like that?
Yeah.
But when you see that, it's so like, holy shit, what are we doing? Like, why are we ordering from Shein, or why are we
Right.
ordering from Amazon all the time, or wherever it comes from? Because if you are thinking about it, you wouldn't do it. I don't think people would do it if they were really thinking about it.
Oh, I mean, imagine like if in the way, well, I don't know if this is across the country, but in California, if you have a certain number of restaurants, you have to put your nutritional information on your menu.
Yeah.
So let's imagine that was instituted from a labor perspective. And you, before you order something, you had to see, this is what they're paying their employees. This is the condition of
Holy
their
shit,
factory.
yeah.
Like how much that would change. Maybe we lobby for this. That would be really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And I think too, it's like to the sustainability point, it's like what we can offer at Noonday too is some of that security in the purchase order. So our artisan business partners are in control of their business. So they're not employees of Noonday. They kind of set their prices, they manage, their workers, because the conditions in Haiti are very different than the conditions in Uganda or Thailand. So but one of the things, and so some of them do like, sometimes they'll have their own website or they'll sell a little bit to tourists, but that's like one piece at a time, like a pair of earrings here, a pair of earrings there, kind of going from sale to sale. And so what Noonday can offer when we place a purchase order, we can say we want 600 of those earrings and we pay up front. So what that means is
Wow.
we pay 50% when we place the order, 50% when the items are received to Noonday. So before they go on the website and before a customer orders, those artisans have been paid in full. Then they can make
Wow.
actual informed decisions about paying their people and how much to do instead of just like living, order to order. And then Noonday takes on the pricing and inventory risk. So if you ever see things on sale, that's not harming the artisans. Like they've been made paid in full. And so I think just like those kind of things of doing business in a human-centered way, of thinking about, like, to your point, what went into this? How are the people being treated? And we can't all afford, artisan bespoke pieces on everything. Like it is more expensive to pay for that, but it's worth it in a lot of cases, right? And so sometimes it's about trade-offs, and like maybe we don't need 35 sweaters. Maybe we can have 5 that are beautifully made and done at, or 10. I don't know. Like I
No,
just
yeah.
like these are the kinds of
Yeah.
things, that I think are worth thinking about, and just knowing that these are real people that you're benefiting has been really powerful for me.
I am thinking about this. You're saying like, have 5 sweaters instead of, 47. And it's like, I think there is this mentality too of like, well, I'm going to purge my closet and I'm just going to donate it. Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to purge my closet. I'm just going to donate it. But inevitably you fill that closet back up and then you purge and then, and it's like a never ending cycle. And, so often those things go to other people, but to your point, it's like, maybe you've worn that sweater once, but you've bought it and now maybe it goes to one other person, or maybe it sits in a Goodwill or what, you know what I mean? Like it's just a lot of waste. Like it's just a lot of waste. And I just keep thinking of this idea that we think we're doing such a good thing when we're like donating clothes, and you are, but it's like, when does that cycle end? Right? Like, are you just going to keep buying and donating, or are you going to be more intentional about buying, instead of a shitty sweater, you're buying like a really beautiful sweater, and then that lasts you for 10-20 years or something like that.
And
Like,
So
I also really believe in the power of just like baby steps, because I think especially right now in the current environment, it can be very paralyzing. Like we see all this news, we see these headlines, USAID is being dismantled. That has impacts in every single country we work in. I have friends in Uganda whose kids' medication comes from USAID. I mean, it's really heavy and it can feel really overwhelming, and it's tempting to just kind of check out, be like, I can't solve world hunger. It's like, I'm not going to do anything.
yeah,
And I think
yeah,
like I really want to fight that, because I think that like any small step is a step. Like you can just be like, oh, it's just a pair of earrings. But like there are women in Uganda like rejoicing from that sale of one pair of earrings. And like we can't change the whole world, but like we can change ourselves. We can change how we talk about this stuff with our kids. We can change a lot. And so I think like don't wait till you have it all figured out and you have this perfect plan to take any action. And that's something on the investing side I say all the time. I promise you, there's never going to come a day where you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm rich enough now. I have all this extra money. I'm going to start investing and start giving it away and start saving. You have to build those habits in from the very beginning. If you're making $20,000 a year, give $20 away to a charity you care
yeah.
about, invest $100 and save 500. I don't care the amounts. It's about the habits and the patterns. Because as your income grows, as your business grows, those habits will grow too. But like if you don't build those foundations in, I think, like I said, never. If you'll just make more and spend more, I promise. Like I also like to say, like, if you had showed, 20-year-old Sarah how much I was making my tax return from this year, I would have been like, you are so rich. Well, does it feel that way? No, it doesn't
No,
feel
you
that
have
way
4
because
kids now.
4 kids, right? So it's like intentionally creating those habits and those baby steps that you can take with you for a lifetime is really important. Whether we're talking about like the nonprofit side, your business side, or investing, it's like build a framework that will grow with you and set yourself up for success.
So on the idea of foundation, you have 4 daughters. How are you teaching them about finance and investing? Do you have any tips that the parents listening could listen to and give their kids?
Yeah, that's a big question. I think my oldest is 10, and I think you do kind of have to find something that like makes sense and works for your family. But a couple things we do an allowance, and I have an app for my older two. I start it like when they start school. I track it with an app, and what I found for us is that really helped shift the decision making onto them. So otherwise it was just they were just constantly asking me for stuff, right? And I felt like my answers were very arbitrary. Sometimes I would say yes, sometimes I would say no. If I was in a good mood and they wanted something small, I'd be like, sure. If I was grumpy and had a fight with my husband, I'd be like, no, that's ridiculous. Like, of course not.
Yeah.
And I think it was also creating a lot of insecurity for them. They're like, sometimes you guys seem like we have a lot of money, and then you're telling us we're broke.
Yeah,
like,
next
what
day
is
we're
happening?
poor. Yes,
yeah, like,
yes.
what is happening? Are we going to lose our house? And so I think, like, there was just a lot of, like, confusion going on. And so I think for us, what the allowance did is it started shifting it. So every time they ask for something, instead of saying no, my answer is like, yes, if you have the money. Like, if you'd like to make that choice. And I think one of the really important things to teach kids, no matter how you do it with allowance or not, is about trade-offs. Because no matter what, you're not going to be able to buy everything you want. And so it's like, if you choose to spend this now, that means you may be giving up something later. So I think, like, foundationally, money comes with trade-offs. Number 2 is we work to have money, like the value of work, and that money is not just dropping from the sky. It's not just the credit card is not unlimited, right? And so just making money as concrete as you can, and like work equals money. That's, just from a very young age, my kids like, why do you work? Why are you leaving? And it's like, we work to have money to buy things. And so I think like those are some things that have really helped. And also we do talk about giving money away. We talk about some of those different buckets I mentioned, because I do want from a young age them to understand that like all money is not just to be spent. That one's hard, because even my 10-year-old is like, well, I don't have anything I need to
doesn't have any bills.
buy. I don't have bills. So like, I'm just going to buy this thing I saw on YouTube and I don't know. So it's a work in progress for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think so. It's so funny. My kids are almost, Vivian will be 11 this month, and then 9.5 and 6.
Similar to mine.
Yeah. But my middle son, who we call Scrooge McDuck because he loves money, he loves to count money, he loves to organize money. He has a piggy bank that's a safe that he bought for himself. And we give them an allowance, but we're very inconsistent about this, and we should be better. But we talk a lot about like, you earning it or whatever. But these conversations started because they'd be like, well, can I just take your credit card? And if I take your credit card, I can buy whatever I want. I was like, that's not really how it works. Like, that's not how the money works. And you cannot go into Target and buy whatever you want, like with the credit card, because it'll be declined. And so it is an interesting, I just relate to what you're saying so much, because there are times where, the kids are like, wow, we're so rich and we've got all this and we're going to go get treats after school. And then sometimes I'm like, we just spent $45 at gas station snacks. Like, what are we doing? And they're like, are we poor now? Like, can we not? Like, what's happening? But what's the app that you use?
Oh yeah.
What do you use?
Me look it up. The other thing is that like, I'm also really clear with my kids, like, we aren't poor, like in a global sense, right? Like we are not poor. We are very fortunate, and we work hard, and we were born in this country, and there's a million reasons, but like, we're not poor. However, we do still have to make decisions with our money and trade-offs. And like right now, they're all upset because we're not going anywhere for spring break, which is next week. And it's like, well, it's the busiest time of my year with tax season.
God, yeah.
And also we're going to Alaska in September. And also we just were in Florida, and you're not deprived of experiences, but there are sometimes trade-offs. The app that I use for their allowance is just called like Chores and Allowance Bot, and it just tracks. I
like it.
It's like a little yellow robot in the App Store. I think it's free, if not. And you can have like multiple kids. One thing I'm going to be looking into as my daughter goes to middle school next year is some different options for like debit cards for kids. I know they have one called Green Light. They have some other ones that you can like track and monitor, because I do want her to be able to have a little more use of her money without giving her our credit card. And another thing I think is good is starting to show them some of those trade-offs. So like if you're planning a family vacation or even going to the grocery store and saying like, okay, we have $200 for groceries, and kind of, you know, pick a certain number of treats and just show them some of those trade-offs, that it is a fixed amount, or letting them help plan vacation. I think we need to not be afraid. I think parents are afraid sometimes of talking about money because they don't want kids going to school and being like, my mom makes $100,000 a year and whatever.
Right.
But like really our responsibility is to our children to teach them like a solid financial education. And so it's like kids say all kinds of stuff at school, but I still feel like it's my responsibility to give my kids like an accurate sense of finances and, you know, in what different jobs make. And especially with how much college is now, like these are not just an automatic, like you're sure you can go to a private college for $85,000 a year. There's going to be discussions about what might you want to study and which school might be a good fit for that. And like, what are the trade-offs or potential earnings from a variety of jobs? And I think that starts young. It starts younger than we think, just the discussions in the house.
So important. Okay, one thing I was going to say is, so we have, my two oldest kids have debit cards with Chase. So there's like a Chase Bank has like kids debit cards, and in it you can have like, there's a savings account associated with it and a spendings, whatever. But now what happens, this is what happens when you give them to these. We hold them, right? But if I'm like, no, you can't, like, we're not getting that. They're like, well, I'll just use my money. And I'm like, okay, chill out. Like, you can't just buy a piece of cake today after school because you have your own money, right? Like, there's some parent rules. So that's an interesting part to start to navigate. Like, it's not that you can't have it because we don't have this money. It's because it's not a smart choice for you. And you can't eat all that sugar after school. But the other thing that you were just talking about, which I think is really interesting, is it was very uncomfortable for me. My parents didn't really talk about money a lot. I knew we didn't have a lot of money. I saw signs that showed us that, right? Mm-hmm. Like, but, you know, now my middle son, my Scrooge McDuck, you know, he'll be like, Mom, how much did you make when you sold that house? And like my instant reaction is to not tell him. Like, I feel uncomfortable about it. But now I just tell him. I'm like, oh yeah, that my commission was X. And he's like, whoa. I'm like, yeah, man, I worked really hard. You know,
I think the flip side of that, I think that's good. And I would support that. I think the other piece though is also starting to tell him about expenses, right? Because they hear this figure and they hear that it's just like free money and say, you know, this was my commission, but I also have these certain expenses for business. I pay an assistant or I pay for the marketing, whatever you pay for. And it costs a lot of money to run our household and for food and groceries. So because the point is like, yes, this might sound like a lot of money, and it is, and we're grateful for it. But there's also, it's not like I have $20,000 to just go on a spending spree. There's other things.
More money, more problems.
And it's like, they're like, oh, if you sell a $3 million house, they think I get $3 million. Right. No. That's not really how it works. I wish it was, but it is not.
But still, more 3 million listings, please. But
And we talked about like those breakdowns a little bit, but I think that's a great point. Like, I think there's a conflict in my mind that I don't want to ever burden them with money. Right. And I don't want them to ever be burdened about these things. But I also, you know, to your point, like, I didn't come from a lot of wealth, but I was also told, like, you can go anywhere you want for college, right? And guess what? I still have student loans because I went anywhere I wanted for college. And now I'm still paying for those student loans at 42. Hopefully not for much longer. But there wasn't a real conversation like you're talking about. Like, okay, if you want to go to this college, then like, what are you interested in? What kind of things can you study? Like, I studied a job that like my max was going to be like $60,000 a year. And that wasn't going to pay for the $100,000 of student loans I took out. Right. Plus interest. So I think those conversations, I think you're right. Like, these conversations super early are really important.
We had our parent-teacher conference yesterday, and the teacher said that August, my oldest, is probably the only student in the class that understands and knows what her parents do for work. And I thought that was really interesting. And I'm like, well, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Is it because she has workaholic parents? Are like like
No.
everything kind of circles around it. But we do have very honest conversations about why mom and dad go to work. And then like when we are doing the like fun things like the Disneyland trips or flying wherever for whatever it is, it's like, this is why mom and dad are spending the time at work. Mom could choose not to work and then we wouldn't do these extra things. Like, so it's kind of a trade-off. And a lot of that is just convincing them that they should allow me to go to work because they would keep me home if they could. But
right, exactly.
And then the other part is like, I am doing it without childcare really. So I'm like, I'm on the phone and taking the calls while we're together and they're having to be quiet in the car. And like, they're seeing mom do it, which is probably different than a lot of other people's type of work that they're doing where like they're off when they pick up their kids and then they're just on parent mode. You know, as a business owner, we're just not.
Exactly. I think that's important. And two things I would say that. The first is I never apologize for working. It's hard sometimes, and my kids will try and give me the biggest guilt trip, things they don't really do to their dad for, even though he also works, never.
Already
But I don't
systemic.
apologize. I know it's awful. I don't apologize for working. I do, like you say, these are the reasons I work. And also I like my work. I'm proud of the work I do. It fills me up. It makes me a better mom. And it's the reality of being an adult. Most adults work. And here's why. And so even when I'm feeling that like internal mom guilt and feeling that, I don't apologize to them for working. And the second thing is in our house, worrying about money is an adult job. Because to your point, Colleen, I don't want my kids to feel that anxiety. I grew up with a lot of money anxiety because it was kind of trickling down from my parents and they were entrepreneurs and there's just a lot of like uncertainty. And so I don't want them to have that. And so I think like when I can see them starting to get like anxious about it, it's kind of like, hey, listen, me and dad are in charge of the money and about worrying about money. And so like trying to reassure them that like that's our job. I want them to be involved, but I hear you. And I think some of that's just like our stuff that we carry from childhood, right? And like,
absolutely.
And our kids are having a totally different experience. They're going to have issues, but there probably be other issues, right? Like they're growing up in a different environment.
We're messing them up some other way.
Yeah,
exactly.
I've also changed the conversation from like, we don't have money for that, or we're not buying that because we don't have money. It's no, we don't value spending money on that. That's not a choice our family makes. We don't value that. Like, yes, we have money and that is not something we spend our money on.
Yeah. That's good and really important because that goes back to what I was saying before about the inconsistency where you're like, sure, we have it, we don't have it, now we're broke. And so I think exactly like we make money, we have money, but we're choosing to spend it on other things. It's really important. And
my oldest or my middle daughter, who's a little prone to anxiety in general, but she got really anxious when we were buying a car. And she's like, do we have money to buy a car? And I'm like, yes, we have money to buy a car. We save money specifically for this type of thing. Just because I'm saying, no, we're not buying $45 in gas station snacks. I don't value $45 in gas station snacks, but I do value, Colleen, I do value that some days, but I do value having a reliable, safe vehicle to drive my family everywhere we need to be. And it's just like shifting that conversation from like, it's our value system. It's our choices that we're making. And kind of explaining that. Also, I would like to educate the entire world that when you sell a $3 million house as a realtor, not only are you not getting the $3 million, but you're also not getting the entire commission that you just negotiated. Because I feel like the entire world, when they see like my $4.5 million listing that Summer and I recently sold, and they're like, oh my God, what'd you get from that? And I'm like, do you want to hear about it? Also, do you want to hear about every expense I have in this position before I've even touched $1 of my money? Like, it is not what you guys think it is, world. So if you're not a realtor, please give me a call, explain how that works.
Yeah. Yes, we'll do that. Oh my God, Sarah, thank you so much for being here. I wish our episodes were like 3 hours long because I just love talking to you and I have so many things that I would love to ask you. But please come back because I think we need more women talking about money all the time. I think it's so important.
Absolutely.
I think especially right now in our current climate, I think it's important for women to make money and to earn money and to know what to do with that money. So thank you for doing what you do and thank you for being here. I think it's so wonderful. So tell us, how do we get a hold of you? Like if people want you to be their financial advisor, how do they reach you? If people want to know more about Noonday Collective, where do we get all your info?
So finance, we're pretty heavily regulated, so we're not a lot on socials with that, but you can just email me. It's Sara, Sara, Freer, Freer @gmail. And like I said, I'm always happy just to talk about finances, jump on a phone call. There's like no commitment to become a client, but I just love to share information and to hear about what people are doing. For Noonday, I do have a public Instagram. It's Sara, Sara.Noonday. You can find me there. I'm not like a social media guru like you guys, but that is my public page. And then
that was so sweet. Say more.
Yeah. To shop and share Noonday, just to check it out, it's just noondaycollection.com/Sara Freer, and you can see all the gorgeous pieces.
Wonderful.
Oh my God, amazing. We'll put all of that in the notes. I say
Yes,
we,
ma'am.
but it really means Cheryl will do it, and I will help pass it out.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
We loved
ladies. It's
having
been
you.
really fun. Thank you for allowing me your time.
Okay, come back every day. Okay, talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay. All right. Bye.
That's a wrap. Thank you for joining us on this journey of laughter, life, and growth.
And remember, you're not alone on this path to success. We're right here with you every step of the way.
Please remember to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you found value in today's conversation, we'd be thrilled if you would leave us a review on your favorite platform. Your feedback means the world to us.
And don't forget to share this podcast with your friends, family, and anyone who could use a good laugh and some practical insight into navigating the challenges and triumphs of our minds, body, soul, and business.
Remember, we're doing this right.